Texas law. It's Senate Bill 2972, and it went into effect just about 3 or 4 days ago. And it requires all public Texas universities to ban all, quote, expressive activities, end quote, on campus between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So no free speech at night, Chris. What do you think, Chris? You like it? Don't like it?
That you're using the attention-grabbing headlines. No free speech. I think people are still allowed to walk around and speak. Having no background on this, I guess the aim is to not have like political rallies or demonstrations go past certain hours of the night, because as we all know, past a certain time of night, nothing good happens.
Welcome to episode 86 of the Weekly Docket, Silberman Law Firm podcast. Today is September 4th, 2025. We talk legal news and practical law. I'm Phil Silberman, owner of the firm, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Heald, who's also the firm's supervising attorney. Chris, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal today, there's always a personal journal section, and it was talking about job hopping being out and job hugging being in. And we won't go into too much of what that article is about, but there was a really interesting quote about a lawyer in there. And here's the quote. I work with somebody who hates being a lawyer, but she's amazing at it. She cries in her car every morning before she goes to work, and then she goes back in there and does her job because she doesn't know what else to do. So, Chris, who's this person at our firm that you were talking about?
At first, my inclination was that someone was quoting me on condition of anonymity, but I hope none of our people feel that badly. I know being a lawyer is very stressful, though. I can, if not relate, I can at least understand.
Okay. Here's what I say, and I guess this is probably an unpopular opinion among our young millennials and Gen Z, but I say good for that lady for honoring her commitment and the responsibility, and not for just her employer, but for her clients that depend on her to go in and do her job. We need more of those. And unlike so many of these snowflakes nowadays, now that doesn't mean she can't quit and give appropriate notice and still serve her clients and go to another firm or help transition her clients. But it just means that she's not running off to Colorado to smoke weed, leaving her clients high and dry and the law firm to clean up the mess. So it's good to have some responsibility in the workforce, even if that means having a good cry in your car every morning. So
You definitely have an unpopular opinion, I think. In 2025, we value work-life balance, and we don't want to traumatize people or have people need therapy later in life for their choices. We want mental health is a priority, but I think there's probably a balance. I get it. Sometimes we do need the ability to just suck it up and charge forward, but we don't want people completely ignoring their mental health.
I seem to have a lot of unpopular opinions, and I guess I'm okay with that. But let's talk about what's on our docket today. First thing we're talking about is a Texas law banning free speech at night. That's being challenged in court, and that's on university campuses, banning free speech at night at university campuses. And then in our legal question section, we've got a question about bonding around liens. Someone says, hey, I've got a closing coming up, and a contractor filed a lien and won't release it. What can I do? And then in our rant and rave section, we're going to be complaining about clients, which is always a good topic. Clients or potential clients that don't listen, don't evaluate risk versus the savings correctly. So that's our show today. Let's go ahead and get it kicked off with our legal news section. And first thing we're talking about is the Texas law. It's Senate Bill 2972, and it went into effect just about 3 or 4 days ago. And it requires all public Texas universities to ban all, quote, expressive activities, end quote, on campus between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So no free speech at night, Chris. What do you think, Chris? You like it? Don't like it?
You're using the attention grabbing headlines, no free speech. I think people are still allowed to walk around and speak. Having no background on this, I guess the aim is to not have like political rallies or demonstrations go past certain hours of the night, because as we all know, past a certain time of night, nothing good happens. Everybody should just go home and get ready for class the next day, or even if it's Friday, let's all just go home, because after midnight, you just get into trouble.
What happens if there's a play on campus, Chris, and it runs past 10 p.m.? Isn't the act of performing some sort of play or musical an expression of free speech? 10:01, it's, hey, curtain closes, no expression. What do you think about that?
It's their campus. If they want to say all performances end by 10, is that really the kind of encroachment on free speech we need to be worried about just because they have a rule? They certainly have rules on athletics about when athletics have to end. It seems attention grabbing. And is it even that? Or is it private stuff? What does it apply to?
I don't know if Texas is going to play Baylor anymore because we left for the SEC, but when the football team comes to play Baylor, I hope Baylor, 10:01, the game's over. If the Baylor coaches and players want to have an after-game prayer, they better not, because they're prohibited by Senate Bill 2972. And I notice I use Baylor as an example at being a good Baptist school. I don't ever think the Texas Longhorns would resort to prayer, but I don't know. Maybe after the performance that Manning had, they're going to need some of that prayer.
I think they all pray after the game.
Well,
I would think this doesn't.
Okay, I would hope not. I'm obviously just pointing out some of these. I don't like the law. I'm pointing out how crazy the law is. I'm pointing out some of clearly the intention is not to keep college athletes from praying or from musicals being performed. The intention is to keep basically anti-Israel protesters from taking over libraries and rioting. That's clearly the intention. Let's just call it a spade, right?
It does make sense.
That brings us to our legal,
because we always hear, oh, it was a peaceful protest, right? That's always the argument. Oh, it was peaceful. But if you have this deadline, then you can easily say the rule is clear. You can't do anything after 10. So I don't have to prove any wrongdoing. After 10 is the wrongdoing. So maybe that's the end. Maybe it's once people are protesting after 10, we don't have to argue that the crowd was unruly. We don't have to cite specific conduct of the people. We can say, hey guys, 10 o'clock, it's over. If you don't go home, we're going to take action. So I'm with you. I don't always love regulation. I think that's pretty clear in the things that we talk about. I'm never the one clamoring for regulation. But at the same time, like I said at the beginning, this doesn't seem like some huge encroachment on free speech that we need to be overly concerned with.
Yeah, there is some precedent for timing of free speech. Do you remember network television, Chris, and how at a certain time when the Late Show came on, the Late Show could get a little raunchy on network television. But if you're, middle of the day during Saturday morning cartoons or whatever, that's not the time. There were tighter restrictions on speech on network television. No more. Maybe it still exists. I don't know if anybody watches network television anymore besides sports, but
no, you're right.
So there's some
they would have, like, after 10 o'clock, they would have the cuss words in there. And I'd be like, whoa, they're allowed to put cuss words up TV at after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what Chris was up. He was learning all of his curse words that he employs today thanks to the Late Show, which I think also will be clearly no more. All right, we got to move on. Talking about our legal questions section. I've got a closing coming up, and a contractor filed a lien and won't release it. What can I do? This question came up in our Google Space at our law firm, and there was all this sort of posturing about, let's file a lawsuit and get a TRO. And I asked, as the firm owner, every now and then I monitor those and I'll pipe in or chime in or whatever. I asked the question, like, what am I missing? Why don't we just bond around the lien? Usually, Chris, if you own a property, you're getting ready to close, you're getting ready to refinance. If you've got a contractor file a lien, files a lien, that's going to hold up your closing or your refinance. So what we typically do, we bond around the lien. Turns out there's a process under the property code. It's chapter 53, subchapter H of the Texas Property Code. It's specifically sections 53.171 and through 53.175. And there's a process to it. Chris, have you done much with bonding around liens, or has that come up with you before? I think you're more of a probate guy. I think you do different kinds of bonds there, but
Yeah, I mean, in defense of the associates, the reason this isn't top of the list of plays, no, we really don't do this because people don't have the money. I don't know, and you can educate us on what is required, but it's at least 2 times the amount, not more. I think it could be more. But to put up that kind of bond and still have a legal issue lingering, you're just inviting more costs and more problems down the line. So it's not usually that attractive of an option. I think it's probably more attractive in commercial spaces where we got to close on this $14 million deal. But residential, most of the people we deal with, we don't really use this tool in the bag very often.
yeah, I hear you. And we do a lot of commercial stuff too, but maybe it's never come up. But yeah, anytime you have more money, just about anything in life, you're going to have more options available to you. Um, Excellent point. You're going to be required to have some assets to pull this off, but the general process is you go out and you get a surety bond. The bond amount, if your lien claim is less than $40,000, okay, then you've got to put up double the bond. So it's $80,000 bond. If it's or if it's a 39,000, then you got to put up 39,000 times 2. If it's 40,000 or greater, right, then your bond amount is for 1.5 times. I guess the theory being that you get economies of scale break. If you've got $1 million lien, then the expectation is you're going to have $1.5 million in bond. And if you go get a surety bond, the surety bond is going to want to see some assets to give you a $1.5 million bond. So it's not like anybody, what's the old expression, Joe buck in a truck, or whatever the expression is, not like your average guy can just go out and do that. You file the bond with the county clerk, and then there's notices to the lien holders. And then once that's done, the lien is basically considered discharged until for purposes of title insurance, which is really what we care about. And then if you're the lien holder, obviously you don't like that because you were hoping to get a nice check, because most of your leverage is when the guy needs to refinance or sell. You're like, yes, he needs to do something. Please pay me. So your bubble's been burst a little bit. Now, what do you do if you're the lien holder? You have to turn around. You've got to file a lawsuit within a year against the surety and against the person who owes you the money, the property holder or owner. That's how you do that. It is a process available. It tends to work best when you've got assets and there's some pressure to get something closed. So that's how that works. And if you're a lien holder, you don't file a lawsuit within a year, you're out of luck.
Yeah. And let me know, I don't want to make stuff up. Is the surety going to make you at least pledge part of the proceeds to them? Because if they let you close and they've got an $80,000 bond and you just take all the money, now they're left holding the bag. Aren't they going to make you either let the title company hold the money or let them hold the money?
No, the surety's got collateral, right? So the bond itself is what is made out to the lien holder. So the idea is let the property close or get refinanced, because the lien holder, instead of the property, now has the bond as collateral, so to speak. And the surety is issuing the bond for typically a fat premium, but sureties aren't stupid. They're not going to issue a bond without any collateral. So the surety's backup on the bond is the surety is going to require like cash or other properties as assets.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So you don't actually get your money. You're going to have to give that money to the surety for them to hold while this is resolved, because now they're on the hook. So if they let you take all the money at closing, or if you're the seller, and if you're the seller and you take the sales price at closing, now they have nothing. So they're going to make you either pledge other assets or keep that money in escrow so that you can't run off to Mexico with.
The surety is going to have their process, which is pledging other assets. Usually that's how that works. It's a pretty good process. Sureties aren't stupid. It's a very lucrative business if sureties can get the work, because they're taking the collateral. They're happy with their collateral, and their premiums are pretty fat. There's a lot of bail bondsmen out there, which is a different type of surety, right? You're guaranteeing the appearance of somebody in court And those guys are operating out of little shacks across from the jailhouse or whatever. And some of those guys are multimillionaires 100 times over operating a little surety business. So those guys are very well-heeled individuals. And that's the whole thing, Christopher. They'll send the bounty hunter if they don't. This is not those types of bonds, but the concept is similar.
They might. You don't pay your real estate bond. You don't pay your probate bond. They're going to send the bounty hunter.
Send the bounty hunter after you. Now they're going to execute on the collaterals, what they're going to do. But all right, that brings us to my favorite part of the show. This is our rant and rave section. And we're complaining about clients or potential clients that don't listen and they don't evaluate risk versus savings correctly. No surprise, Chris, many of our potential new clients or our clients don't listen to us. I don't think this is unique to lawyers. I'm sure there are a lot of doctors out there that don't have their patients listen to them either. I think there's a famous country song out there, and it's about the doctor always tells you to not drink, like you need to drink less. And I think the song goes something like, the doctor says I need to drink less, but there's a heck of a lot more old drunks out there than there are old doctors. So I'm going to listen to the old drunk. So he keeps drinking. I don't recommend that course of action, but what do you think, Chris? Have you had some clients not listen to you before?
No, they all listened. Thank you. Yeah, it's part of the business. It certainly is. We give the best advice. And if the relationship is such that they want somebody who's more aligned with them, hey, it's their money, it's their case. I think there probably is. There's to go get a second opinion or a third opinion until you really find the doctor that says what you want him to say. And you and I were having lunch the other day and I accused you. I said, Phil, you're starting with the conclusion and you're reasoning to what you want. And some people do that sometimes. They want the legal outcome or they want the medical outcome. So they're going to go find the person that agrees with them. And you're entitled to do that.
Yeah. I think Bob Marley did that. It's a sad story of Bob Marley. He died of cancer. Bob Marley died of cancer. And it was a very curable cancer, but he decided to go to Germany and engage in some sort of ridiculous holistic medicine that just had no chance of, and then he died. It was like that. But nothing against holistic medicine. Some of it worked, but what about in the litigation context, Chris? Have you ever had clients that just refuse to comply with the discovery orders and the judges getting really mad at you?
Not personally. Yes and no. Yes. Sometimes clients really don't want to follow any rules. One specifically that comes to mind was we were fighting over a plane. I'm sure you remember the case. It was hangared out at West Houston Airport. Yeah. So we had a discovery dispute. Client didn't want to comply. Judge was very sympathetic to me. Judge understood that client wasn't going to comply. The other side was asking for sanctions. Judge said, I'm not going to sanction you, Mr. Heald. You're fine. I understand. Doing your best. Which is the way I think it should be. Not all attorneys have that experience. We have certainly had attorneys, mainly in the city up I-45, that the judges seem to be a lot stricter there and say, counsel, you will go to his office, you will go get the documents, you will turn them over to opposing counsel, or you will be sanctioned, or you will be held in contempt. And that seems a bit overreaching to me. We are just the hired gun. We certainly have ethical duties. We certainly advise our clients to comply with court orders, but to then tell me I have to go to his office and make him comply? Yeah. Certainly I don't.
Those judges should be mandamus, and we don't have that kind of control over our clients. As nice as it would be if we did, that's just not reality. And my response would probably be, Your Honor, I respect that opinion. I'm doing everything in my power, Judge. Here's my motion to withdraw, by the way. So I hope you grant it because
we just had one of those somewhere in the hill country. It was exactly that. It was, Judge, we're trying, client and I, we're just not seeing eye to eye. Client doesn't want to produce these documents. We need to withdraw as counsel. Please let us out and let the client have this out with the other attorney. And that's fine. Like we were just talking about, it is their case. And if they want to fight it to the bitter end, they're absolutely entitled to. When we know that the rules say you have to do a certain thing, I can't advise you otherwise. I can't say, sure, let's not turn that over when I know that it is clearly responsive to discovery, or I know that we need to supplement.
Yeah. And it's not just exclusive to litigation. It comes up in the transaction side of things as well. This is an example of clients not listening to us or clients not seeing the risk reward situation. We often get these calls from potential clients that they want a cut rate legal service. I had some clients the other day, they wanted like a $500 fee on a $10 million transaction. And combining these 5 legal documents into one. And they always say, "Oh, I've done it all. I just need you to review it." It doesn't work like that. There's an old Texas saying, and this being a family show, and we're not on network television after 10 p.m. There's an old Texas saying says, "You can't turn chicken feces into chicken salad," and that means I can't take your really terrible documents and turn them into something amazing without either a ton of work. I might as well just start with my own documents. Sometimes we try strike a balance, like we give the clients all these kinds of disclaimers, like I've told you not to do it this way. It's a very high risk of you doing this transaction like this. Don't blame me when it all blows up. But ultimately, while that can create some safeguards for the attorney, you can still create a malpractice risk for the law firm. And I think the best thing you can do as a lawyer is turn those clients away and just say, "Look, respectfully, I understand what you're trying to do, but I can't help you." I've got a line that I use. I said, "Mr. Smith, you're going to find a lawyer that doesn't have a lot of work, or a very young attorney that's hungry, and they'll be able to help you." And they don't really, that really upsets them, Chris, when I tell them that.
Yeah, I just say, look, and it is better for the client, honestly. If we're going to be butting heads, you want somebody who's going to have a little more faith in the way they want to do it and saying, "You can do the transaction that way." And they just go ahead and do it, instead of me saying, I don't feel great about doing this. This doesn't feel like it's the right way. There's so much better way to structure this, but I understand you want it to be simple. You think I'm giving you legal jargon and double speak. I'm really not trying to run up your bill and make it more complicated. I just think that sometimes too simplistic doesn't solve all your problems or prevent future problems. That's one of the things I learned very early on as a lawyer. You're not just here solving problems. Sometimes it's very easy to solve the problem in front of you. It's solve the problem in front of you in a way that's going to last and prevent future problems and address future problems should they arise. So put forth a mechanism that's long lasting, not just, "Oh, that's easy. Let's fix it today and send you on your way."
Yeah. I mean, complex problems often do require complex solution. Not all the time. Sometimes a simple thing is best, but that happens. All right. That brings our show to a close. I've been your host, Phil Silverman. Chris has been my co-host. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. And as a reminder, nothing in this show is to be considered legal advice, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com. That's info@silblawfirm.com. Tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. Everybody have a great rest of your week and weekend.